Welcome to Coffee Break Convos with Jessica, the show where I sit down with people who are breaking barriers and sharing what it really takes to carve out their own path. We'll dive into their journeys, the challenges they faced, and the real stuff no one tells you. You'll laugh, you'll learn, and maybe even get a little inspired. So grab your coffee and let's get into it. This is Coffee Break Convos. Today, we'll be talking to Jose Alonzo, aka Sin X. He's a poet and published author, a public speaker, community organizer, former open mic host who hosted The Transformation, which is published in You Are Not Alone Recipes to Obtain Success by Students for Students, that won International Latino Book Award in 2022, and former co host of the Nerd Oasis podcast. That is a mouthful. You can check out some of his written work in Occam's Razor magazine, issues 36 and 37. And he recently published In My Words, excuse my Spanish, and Mis Palabras. You can say it for
En
me.
mis palabras.
Thank you. In January 2025. The book can be ordered through any independent mom and pop store. So,
Yeah.
welcome, Jose.
Thank you. Thank you.
To give a little context, we've known each other for like over 10 years now. We've been friends
Has it
for
been that long already?
a long time. A long time.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on to my show. I'm really excited to
Yeah.
like learn about like all these different adventures that you've been on. And you wear so many hats. And I wanted to ask like what came first for you out of everything that you've done? What was like the first creative kickoff?
Drawing. I used to draw a lot. Yeah, anything and everything from like little graffiti cartoons and cartoons I saw on TV and comic books and anime. That was my first creative outlet.
So what sparked that little spark for drawing that led to everything else and your writing especially?
So for drawing, I guess you can say it had to do with comic books. There was a comic book shop that used to be about 2 blocks from my house, and the owner was really cool. And he let me go in there, and if I didn't have the money, I can sit down and read a comic book. If I did, he'd give me a little deal so I could buy a comic book and then bring it home and read it and start drawing like the characters, see if I could pick up on some of the artist's style of drawing.
And what led to writing? Because I know you've written so much.
Yeah, that's more difficult to pinpoint. I just remember I was at Chabot College for a little bit and there was like an open mic on campus and I went to it. I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool. And a friend of mine just saw me like writing down just random notes. And he was just like, oh, hey, what are you writing down? And I said, oh man, just some like little rhymes. Because I did that for a little bit in high school, and there was poetry, well, not a poetry class, but a creative writing class. And I wrote a little bit in there, but it wasn't like anything that made me say, "Yo, this is what I want to do. This is what I like." It was more or less around Chabot time when I started doing that a lot more, and I started meeting up with new classmates and going to open mic events outside of the campus. And I was like, oh, this is what I like. Like, I like the community, the people are cool. And I started writing a lot more and people were helping me with how to express myself, how to memorize my poems and give more emphasis on words. So yeah, my love for writing came more when I got to Chabot College.
Out of everything, because you've done stand up as well, having a podcast and doing stand up, out of all of these, what's been your most favorite endeavor?
Honestly, my favorite one was the Nerd Oasis because it was me and my buddy Eric. And Eric, man, we did a podcast for, oh man, a couple of years. I
Oh,
know that
wow.
we started right when the Logan movie got announced. So it hadn't been out yet, it just got announced. And so I think that was like our first episode, the announcement, and then talking about what we were looking forward to. And we talked about everything from like movies, comics, anime, video games, but also we were foul mouthed and we were talking a lot of smack to each other and just yeah. just running wild on that podcast. And we would have people come on like Janessa, Daniel. We had a couple of friends that were cosplayers come on, and it was just week after week or every other week. But then when COVID happened, it kind of slowed us down to a point where we said we should just call it quits here because nothing was happening. Like theaters were closed, gaming companies weren't coming out with anything much. So yeah, we called it quits, but it was a good and fun time for us.
Is it still on somewhere? Can people listen to it still?
No, unfortunately not. When we stopped, because Eric was the one doing a lot of the recording, I was just doing like setup and we could do it at my house and make sure like everything was quiet. But I think he may or may not have the audio. But yeah, it used to stream, so we took down the streaming page and we didn't have it up on YouTube. So we didn't have it like on a lot of websites. It was more like guerrilla tactics where we had to like post it up on our social media pages so everyone knew about it and could listen in. And yeah, it was fun times though.
Well, it definitely sounds fun, and the fact that you have like really happy memories from it is really amazing. And you can always, I mean, if you're ever inclined, you and Eric can always restart it.
It's funny. I've had a couple of people ask me if I wanted to start a podcast. I was like, I don't know. I don't feel like I have the time as much as I used to. And even Eric has said, like, hey, you should start one. And I'm just like, oh, well, I mean, if I do, you have to pop on sometimes. And he was just like, I don't know if I have time.
So the first time your written work became publicly available, what was that written work, and how did that feel?
It was the Occam's Razor at East Bay. I mean, in high school, I had a poem submitted and printed, but it wasn't legitimately published. It was just like something for the school. So it was just like many copies were ran off and binded by the students and, passed around the school, but legitimately published Occam's Razor. It was a short fiction story that I had written. Honestly, I didn't think I was going to get in because I remember I had sat down, reread my entire story, and I had to change up the past and present tense. And I was like, I'm only 4 days away from having to submit this. I need to hop
Mhm.
on this really quick. So you're talking about after class, it was come home, knock out the homework, stay up late, change the past and present tenses, reread, edit my own story, and then finally save it. And I turned it in the day before submission.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it into this book. We'll see what happens. Yeah, I was also chosen to be an editor for that book. So when the people that choose which stories make it in saw that my book had made it through, they said, okay, well, you have to step outside. You have to wait till we all decide whether your story makes it in or not. I was like, all right. So I had to wait out there. I could hear them reading my story. It's like so nervous. So when I got back into the office, they said, oh, hey, you made it. You're in. You're good. And I was like, oh, awesome.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Like I was like, yes, my story made it in. It was surreal. It was surreal because I was still in the mentality of, oh, I have to help with editing these other stories and these poems and everything.
Where does your inspiration come from when you're writing these stories? Is it like personal life, or is it just imagination, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. I'll use my personal life sometimes, but at the same time, my imagination, especially coming from a Latino background, it's very much a mixture of the two. I've written short stories that have to do with someone having a sleep paralysis and then seeing a demon in the corner. And then because of the Mexican background, it's like, oh, well, maybe it's not necessarily a demon. Maybe it's an ancestor or someone trying to communicate with you and this and that. So I take a lot of inspiration from that. And
Mhm.
sometimes I'll even take harsher backgrounds that have happened to me in my personal life. And I'll talk about those in a deeper manner, but at the same time, try to make light of it or try to use some type of imagination, like maybe a ghost, a ghoul, maybe a daydream, something like that, just to like really ease into the story.
Yeah, really pulling in from personal experiences and cultures really, it makes a story unique.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like, I feel like when I got to East Bay, I really thrived on listening to my classmates and my professor because the thing I loved about my professor, Professor Gutierrez, he would have three, sometimes four students every class meet have their story submitted so we can go around the classroom and talk about them. But the way he did it was when it came to that student story, that student had to be quiet the entire time as we went around the entire classroom, everyone had to have notes to give to that student.
Oh,
And so I would take my notes down and I would listen to everyone. And then the professor would have the final thing to say. And then afterwards, then I could speak and I could tell them, okay, well, I feel you on this. Oh, your criticism on this is kind
mhm.
of on point, but this is what I was trying to get across. And then it's a back and forth conversation of, well, if that was your point, you should have written it more like this, or you could have went about it like this because this didn't stick or this didn't land with me. And so I really enjoyed those classes because it wasn't a direct criticism, it was a conversation of how to improve your story.
Oh, that is really great, especially getting feedback from everybody because like everyone has different perspectives. Like when you're writing, it's you're in your world, you know what you're saying, you know what you're talking about. But then once it's out in public, do other people understand what you're saying? If they're not, if they're interpreting it in a totally different way, well, one, whether do you want it to be up for discussion? Do you want it to be interpreted in multiple different ways, which many writers do? But then others, they want it to be interpreted in a way where they saw it visually themselves. I would say helpful way of like giving feedback for sure, like and
Yeah.
having that like dialogue back and forth.
Yeah, and the thing that was enjoyable was he had that for the beginners, intermediate, and advanced fiction writing courses. So it was something that stayed the same, but everyone had something to say. But it was never like no one ever really put each other down. No one ever criticized each other in a harsh manner. It was all very uplifting and helpful.
Mm-hmm.
So just being around, it was more like I'm around more peers than I was quote unquote students. So like we all saw each other as equals, but it was also kind of like the whole sword sharpening the sword, like, oh, you're gonna help me out, I'm gonna help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Let's try to figure things out. Let's try to look at your writing and let's look at my writing and see what we can do to uplift each other, you know?
Yeah. And is that class, that professor, being in that environment, is that what motivated you to write your newest book?
Yeah, yeah, him and just the many years of writing poetry because a lot of friends and a lot of classmates they would see like, oh, he's writing a poem or oh, he's performing at this place or oh, he's hosting an open mic and it was almost the same question every time like, when are you going to come out with a book? When are you going to come out with something like what we're waiting. And a lot of peers, like right when I came out with my book, said, hey, I'm there. Like, you know, you've been working on this for a long time. It's about time it's come out. That I heard that a lot. It's about time, Jose. Like, you've been talking about this for so many years. And I'm like, my writing craft wasn't there. Like, I'll admit, I look back at my old journals and I think, what was I doing? What was I saying? It's kind of cringe. It's kind of cringe.
You were starting
But
out.
no, yeah, of course. I was starting out, but at the same time, I can take some of those old poems and I can finally bring them to a newer level
Mhm.
and rewrite them and say, okay, that was during that time of my life, and I'm going to bring it to the present with a more mature look at things, more vocabulary, more context, more in depth. Because when I look at my poems, sometimes I like to think of them as like a rap. Because I'll listen to artists like Tupac, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, and so many like Latino artists like Calle 13, Residente, and just hearing their lyrics and how they almost play like a verbal connect the dots, where it's like they'll say something in like the first three lines, but then connect it back to like the next four, five, and sixth line of their poem or rap. And I'm just like, yes, I can do this. Like I like to talk about something, then bring it back so everyone is like, oh wait, he just said this at the beginning. And this is what he means now. It's about the flow of words and context for me.
being a performer, is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you fall upon it, or
I fell
how
upon it.
did that happen?
So, so I started. It's so funny because I was already performing. I was already going to open mics with friends and learning my style. At that time, I had just dropped out of Chabot. I was working and jumping from job to job. I hated most of the jobs I had. It was customer service, so dealing with customers and the public, not so great for a writer. I was driving home from work one day and I almost got unalived in a car accident. And it made me realize, like, hey, life's short. Like, you can't just live for yourself. You got to really help out people and help out your community. And I got put in touch with someone that was a coordinator at a youth organization program in Hayward. And I remember talking to him and telling him about all these open mics that I was going to and that they were fundraisers. And he's like, hey, would you be down to help with putting a fundraiser open mic together here at the center? And I was like, yeah, sure. And I talked to a couple of people that hosted their own open mics. I saw how people moved and navigated through open mics. I was like, I think I can do this. I just need equipment. I can get together the people, this, and that. And sure enough, that's how the transformation open mic started. It was the first one at a youth center. It was me and a couple of buddies. We did another two, maybe three more there. And then it went from there to like different open mics at coffee shops, pizzerias, and just so many places. And I think I did, oh man, I think I did over 13 of them, 13, 14 of them. Yeah, it was an annual open mic. And the thing was that the last one I did was the year before I graduated from East Bay in 2018. I could have done one in 2019, but I was solely focused on my classes and courses because I said, okay, I'm going out with a bang. I'm about to graduate and I'm already applying for all these writers jobs and editor positions and I don't know what's going to happen next. So let me just say 2018 is my last one. And so many people were kind of sad. They were like, no, like this isn't over. Like you have to do more. And I was like, no, like I can't. Like it's that time. I got to step away and
Mhm.
I got to focus on my classes, finish that, and really get my feet on the ground with some of these jobs and see what happens. And then unfortunately, COVID happened.
All of these different hats that you've wore, have they helped each other, especially with you writing? Has one helped make the other better or influence the other in some sort of way?
Oh yeah, wholeheartedly. And being a host for an open mic, I always had to be the face of going out there, getting the annual open mic ready, meeting people, shaking hands with people, getting to know them, and having acquaintances and friendships evolve from those things. So when it came time to finally say, I'm going to write my book, I'm going to publish it, I went out there and I started talking to different businesses. And I was like, hey, I'm coming out with this book. You've seen me here a couple times or a lot. I was just wondering, like, can I do a pop up? Can I sell my book here? Can we do A, B, C, and D? And that's what led to me doing a pop up at Bruja Coffee in my hometown, doing the book release party at Books on B, having the after party at the Stax Record Shop, and also doing a reading and writing, or sorry, a reading and a signing at a Banter Bookshop. Like these are all local establishments that I go to. Like Bruja Coffee is a coffee and pastry shop that's literally blocks from my house. Books on B, that bookshop used to be known as the Bookshop. And Renee, thankfully, after the unfortunate part of that shop closing down, she opened up her own shop, which is now Books on B in Hayward. And then I've met the owner, Gabe, for the Stax Record Shop, one block away from the bookshop. And the owners of Banter Bookshop, when they opened up, I went over there. I was like, it's a bookshop. How am I not going to go over there?
Mhm.
And when I'm in the area, if I'm looking for a book, I've stopped in and bought a book, or at least, friends have wanted to see like what bookshops are in the area. So we go over there. So, for them to say, hey, we have a copy of your book. Can you come out and do a reading and a signing? And it was during an open mic night. So I was like, yeah, sure, not a problem. And they sold out. They sold out. They ordered only 5 books, which was fine. I didn't even expect one. I thought it was just going to be the one I brought with me. And they're like, no, 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 we have 5 copies. And as soon as the night wrapped up and they opened up the register, all 5 sold out, which
Oh,
was
wow.
mind blowing to me. Like, oh my God, my first sellout.